Notes of Lectures Mercenaries in Religion, delivered in Minneapolis on November 26, 1893, reported in the Minneapolis Journal. The Unitarian Church was crowded yesterday morning by an audience anxious to learn something of Eastern religious thought as outlined by Swami Vivekananda, a Brahmin priest who was prominent in the Parliament of Religions at Chicago last summer. The distinguished representative of the Brahmin faith was brought to Minneapolis by the Peripatetic Club, and he addressed that body last Friday evening. He was induced to remain until this week, in order that he might deliver the address yesterday. Dr. H. M. Simmons, the pastor, read from Paul's lesson of faith, hope, and charity, and the greatest of these is charity, supplementing that reading by a selection from the Brahmin scripture which teaches the same lesson, and also a selection from the Muslim faith and poems from the Hindu literature, all of which are in harmony with Paul's utterances. After a second hymn, Swami Vivekananda was introduced. He stepped to the edge of the platform and at once had his audience interested by the recital of a Hindu story. He said in excellent English, "I will tell you a story of 5 blind men. There was a procession in a village in India, and all the people turned out to see the procession, and specially the gaily caparisoned elephant. The people were delighted, and as the 5 blind men could not see, they determined to touch the elephant that they might acquaint themselves with its form. They were given the privilege, and after the procession had passed, they returned home together with the people, and they began to talk about the elephant. 'It was just like a wall,' said one. 'No, it wasn't,' said another. 'It was like a piece of rope.' 'You are mistaken,' said a third. 'I felt him, and it was just a serpent.' The discussion grew excited, and the fourth declared the elephant was like a pillow. The argument soon broke into more angry expressions, and the 5 blind men took to fighting. Along came a man with 2 eyes, and he said, 'My friends, what is the matter?' The disputation was explained, whereupon the newcomer said, 'Men, you are all right. The trouble is you touched the elephant at different points. The wall was the side, the rope was the tail, the serpent was the trunk, and the toes were the pillow. Stop your quarreling. You are all right. Only you have been viewing the elephant from different standpoints.' Religion, he said, had become involved in such a quarrel. The people of the West thought they had the only religion of God, and the people of the East held the same prejudice. Both were wrong. God was in every religion. There were many bright criticisms on Western thought. The Christians were characterized as having a shopkeeping religion. They were always begging of God, 'Oh God, give me this and give me that. Oh God, do this and do that.' The Hindu couldn't understand this. He thought it wrong to be begging of God. Instead of begging, the religious man should give. The Hindu believed in giving to God, to his fellows, instead of asking God to give to them. He had observed that the people of the West, very many of them, thought a great deal of God, so long as they got along all right, but when the reverse came, then God was forgotten. Not so with the Hindu, who had come to look upon God as a being of love. The Hindu faith recognized the motherhood of God as well as the fatherhood, because the former was a better fulfillment of the idea of love. The Western Christian would work all the week for the dollar, and when he succeeded, he would pray, 'Oh God, we thank thee for giving us this benefit.' And then he would put all the money into his pocket. The Hindu would make the money and then give it to God by helping the poor and the less fortunate. And so comparisons were made between the ideas of the West and the ideas of the East. In speaking of God, Vivekananda said in substance, 'You people of the West think you have God. What is it to have God? If you have Him, why is it that so much criminality exists, that 9 out of 10 people are hypocrites? Hypocrisy cannot exist where God is. You have your palaces for the worship of God, and you attend them in part for a time once a week. But how few go to worship God? It is the fashion in the West to attend church, and many of you attend for no other reason. Have you then, you people of the West, any right to lay exclusive claim to the possession of God?' Here the speaker was interrupted by spontaneous applause. He proceeded, 'We of the Hindu faith believe in worshipping God for love's sake, not for what He gives us, but because God is love, and no nation, no people, no religion has God until it is willing to worship him for love's sake. You of the West are practical in business, practical in great inventions, but we of the East are practical in religion. You make commerce your business. We make religion our business. If you will come to India and talk with the workman in the field, you will find he has no opinion on politics. He knows nothing of politics. But you talk to him of religion, and the humblest knows about monotheism, deism, and all the isms of religion. You ask, "What government do you live under?" And he will reply, "I don't know. I pay my taxes, and that's all I know about it." I have talked with your laborers, your farmers, and I find that in politics they are all posted. They are either Democrat or Republican, and they know whether they prefer free silver or a gold standard. But you talk to them of religion, they are like the Indian farmer. They don't know. They attend such a church, but they don't know what it believes. They just pay their pew rent, and that's all they know about it, or God. The superstitions of India were admitted, but what nation doesn't have them? He asked. In summing up, he held that the nations had been looking at God as a monopoly. All nations had God, and any impulse for good was God. The Western people, as well as the Eastern people, must learn to want God. And this want was compared to the man under water, struggling for air. He wanted it. He couldn't live without it. When the people of the West wanted God in that manner, then they would be welcome in India, because the missionaries would then come to them with God, not with the idea that India knows not God, but with love in their hearts and not dogma. The Destiny of Man. Delivered in Memphis on January 17, 1894. Reported in Appeal Avalanche. The audience was moderately large and was made up of the best literary and musical talent of the city, including some of the most distinguished members of the legal fraternity and financial institutions. The speaker differs in one respect in particular from some American orators. He advances his ideas with as much deliberation as a professor of mathematics demonstrates an example in algebra to his students. Kananda speaks with perfect faith in his own powers and ability to hold successfully his position against all argument. He advances no ideas, nor make assertions that he does not follow up to a logical conclusion. Much of his lecture is something on the order of Ingersoll's philosophy. He does not believe in future punishment, nor in God as Christians believe in him. He does not believe the mind is immortal, from the fact that it is dependent, and nothing can be immortal except it is independent of all things. He says, God is not a king sitting away in one corner of the universe to deal out punishment or rewards according to a man's deeds here on earth, and the time will come when man will know the truth and stand up and say, I am God, I am life of his life. Why teach that God is far away when our real nature, our immortal principle is God? Be not deluded by your religion teaching original sin, for the same religion teaches original purity. When Adam fell, he fell from purity. Applause. Purity is our real nature, and to regain that is the object of all religion. All men are pure, all men are good. Some objections can be raised to them, and you ask why some men are brutes. That man you call a brute is like the diamond in the dirt and dust. Brush the dust off, and it is a diamond, just as pure as if the dust had never been on it. And we must admit that every soul is a big diamond. Nothing is baser than calling our brother a sinner. A lioness once fell upon a flock of sheep and killed a lamb. A sheep found a very young lion, and it followed her, and he gave it suck, and it grew up with the sheep and learned to eat grass like a sheep. One day an old lion saw the sheep lion and tried to get it away from the sheep, but it ran away as he approached. The big lion waited till he caught the sheep lion alone, and he seized it and carried it to a clear pool of water and said, You are not a sheep, but a lion. Look at your picture in the water. The sheep lion, seeing its picture reflected from the water, said, I am a lion and not a sheep. Let us not think we are sheep, but be lions, and don't bleat and eat grass like a sheep. For 4 months I have been in America. In Massachusetts, I visited a reformatory prison. The jailer at that prison never knows for what crimes the prisoners are incarcerated. The mantle of charity is thrown around them. In another city, there were 3 newspapers, edited by very learned men, trying to prove that severe punishment was a necessity, while one other paper contended that mercy was better than punishment. The editor of one paper proved by statistics that only 50% of criminals who received severe punishment returned to honest lives, while 90% of those who received light punishment returned to useful pursuits in life. Religion is not the outcome of the weakness of human nature. Religion is not here because we fear a tyrant. Religion is love, unfolding, expanding, growing. Take the watch. Within the little case is machinery and a spring. The spring, when wound up, tries to regain its natural state. You are like the spring in the watch, and it is not necessary that all watches have the same kind of a spring, and it is not necessary that we all have the same religion. And why should we quarrel? If we all had the same ideas, the world would be dead. External motion we call action. Internal motion is human thought. The stone falls to the earth. You say it is caused by the law of gravitation. The horse draws the cart and God draws the horse. That is the law of motion. Whirlpools show the strength of the current. Stop the current and stagnation ensues. Motion is life. We must have unity and variety. The rose would smell as sweet by any other name, and it does not matter what your religion is called. 6 blind men lived in a village. They could not see the elephant, but they went out and felt of him. One put his hand on the elephant's tail, one of them on his side, one on his trunk, one on his ear. They began to describe the elephant. One said he was like a rope, one said he was like a great wall, one said he was like a boa constrictor, and another said he was like a fan. They finally came to blows and went to pummeling each other. A man who could see came along and inquired the trouble, and the blind men said they had seen the elephant and disagreed because one accused the other of lying. Well, said the man, you have all lied. You are blind, and neither of you have seen it. That is what is the matter with our religion. We let the blind see the elephant. Applause. A monk of India said, I would believe you if you were to say that I could press the sands of the desert and get oil, or that I could pluck the tooth from the mouth of the crocodile without being bitten. But I cannot believe you when you say a bigot can be changed. You ask why is there so much variance in religions? The answer is this. The little streams that ripple down 1,000 mountainsides are destined to come at last to the mighty ocean. So with the different religions. They are destined at last to bring us to the bosom of God. For 1,900 years, you have been trying to crush the Jews. Why could you not crush them? Echo answers, ignorance and bigotry can never crush truth. The speaker continued in this train of reasoning for nearly 2 hours and concluded by saying, let us help and not destroy.